Hey, thanks for taking a moment to watch this video. My name is Rick Ivey. I am the senior pastor at Wesley Methodist Church in Beaumont. And today I want to share with you a great devotional on patience. And it seems to me that patience is something that is unbelievably valuable right now. We are in the midst of a pandemic where we don't know when things will go back to normal or if they'll go back to normal, but we certainly are having our patience tested and taxed in ways that we probably never imagined. And so when we talk about the Christian virtue of patience, we are naming something that is essential. Obviously, patience is something that has value outside of this particular time. It is something that is crucial and needed in our world today. And the great news is that we as a Christian people have access to patience in a very unique way. Now, I don't think you'll have to go far to think about why you might need patience right now. There's probably somebody in your household or in your work situation that is causing all kinds of a need for you to have patience. If you're telling yourself, if they do that annoying thing one more time, it is not going to go well for them. And so I don't think we'll have to reach very far to find an example of why you need patience. But I want to name some bigger things or some longer things that you might not even consider right now just because of our situation. But patience is essential for many of the things that are close to our hearts. If you're married, you know how important patience is. If you have kids, you know that patience is essential. But even in a larger perspective, I think about those people who I have known who were faithful in their marriage vows, even when their spouse was struggling with chronic disease or Alzheimer's or dementia. And they displayed a patience that was beyond words. And when you talk to those people, one of the things that they will say over and over again is that they do this out of love. And many times they'll say it's the kind of love that God showed them. And so when you think about how do we become more patient or show more patience to other people, the key here is love. And I'm going to share with you two verses about just how much God's patience is beneficial to us and to our world. The first passage I want to share with you is from Luke chapter 13. And it is a passage where Jesus seems to me, at least every time I read it, Jesus seems to me to let out a long sigh, like, oh, y'all probably done that a number of times in the last couple of weeks. That he's just at his wit's end, doesn't have anything else to say or do, and yet he just lets out this long sigh. And along with that sigh, he speaks these words. He says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who killed the prophets and stoned those who were sent to you, how often have I wanted to gather your people just as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings? But you didn't want that. Look, your house is abandoned. I tell you that you won't see me until the time comes when you say, blessings on the one who comes in the name of the Lord. I thought this passage was so important because it's Jesus looking down on the city of Jerusalem. And on paper, Jerusalem should have been amazing. It was God's holy city, David's city. It had the temple. It was the center of life for the people of Israel. On paper, it should have been just profound. It's where the glory of God was pleased to dwell, where they would offer sacrifice, where they would offer worship, where people would be blessed and set free. But in Jesus' time, that was not the case. In Jesus' time, Jerusalem was corrupt. From the leadership of the Romans to the leadership in the temple, all of it had been corrupted. In fact, one of the times that we see Jesus lose his patience is when he's cleansing the temple. But here, Jesus is letting out this long sigh, filled with love, compassion, and patience. And he's saying, if you just knew, if you just understood, then surely you would change. And you and I have probably spoken those words about someone that we love, someone who we've watched struggle with an addiction, somebody we've seen be their own worst enemies, somebody that we care and we love, and we just think to ourselves, oh, if only they could see who they could be or what they could have. We let out that long sigh. And Jesus shows us patience there. And there's another piece in Romans chapter 2 where Paul talks about how essential God's patience with us is. He shows us just how powerful and liberating and redemptive God's acts of patience are for you and I. And in Romans chapter 2, he says, so every single one of you who judge others is without any excuse. You condemn yourself when you judge another person because the one who is judging is doing the same things. We know that God's judgment agrees with the truth, and his judgment is against those who do these kinds of things. If you judge those who do these things while you do the same thing yourself, think about this. You believe that you will escape God's judgment? Or do you have contempt for the riches of God's generosity, tolerance, and patience? Don't you realize that God's kindness is supposed to lead you to change your heart and life? What Paul is pointing out in such a beautiful and eloquent way is he's saying that patience with others begins with an openness and honesty about who we are. We have our flaws, our mistakes. We have the log in our own eye. And he's saying to them, why do you judge other people? Why do you lose your patience with other people? Don't you see the way that God has been unbelievably patient with our world? You think about it, in just Paul's time, thousands of years ago, God has watched as wars and violence and hatred and poverty and inequality have all ravaged the land and the world because of what people have done. And rather than give up, foreclose, wash his hands, God patiently abides with us and loves us. And I love this part where Paul says, don't you realize that God's patience and kindness bring us to a change of heart and life? That when we think about what is our patience with others accomplishing, what is it doing? We trust God. We're saying we believe that our patient love of other people will be honored by God. That God will use that to help that person in a wonderful way. So where are you with your patience now? Do you see the example that God has set in Jesus Christ? Do you get a glimpse and a taste of what Paul is outlining and saying about what patience can actually accomplish? It can accomplish so much. I love the words of Stanley Hauerwas when he talks about patience and hope with other people. And it's a powerful thing to hear from him because he's been married to somebody who struggled with mental illness, early onset Alzheimer's, and patiently loved her over decades. He pointed out the significance of patience beyond that, and he said, I think when history is written, Christians are going to be known for two things. They don't kill their unborn, and they don't kill their elderly. Both of those things, whether you've ever thought about it or not, require patience. When we look at an unborn child, many times they are aborted because think an inconvenience, a hassle, not worth it, too burdensome. When we open our lives up to what God is doing and we patiently abide with them, wonderful things happen. Same is true for our elderly when their bodies fail them or their minds fail them. Many in this world would say it's time for them to go. But God's testimony is patience, patient love, and value their lives. So those are the heart issues when it comes to growing in our patience, letting that virtue be cultivated in our lives, especially patience with others. Hope this blesses you. Hope it helps you. Praying for you. Love you. And we'll see you next time.